Hello and welcome to my channel. Today I am sharing how to make a bathroom sink skirt for your pedestal sink using pleat tape and fabric velcro. A few weeks ago I shared a tour of our cottage bathroom makeover and how the addition of this little sink skirt made such a huge difference in the total look of our bathroom. It took our bathroom from a simple update to feeling like an intentionally designed cottage space. This is a super easy and fun sewing project, doable even for a beginner, so I hope you'll give it a try. Let's get started. I'm going to link all of the tools and supplies required for this project in the description below, so make sure you look over that before you get started. The first step is ordering your fabric. I ordered 4 yards of fabric for this project. Now in a moment, I'm going to show you how to calculate how much fabric you will need. Just depending on the size of your pedestal sink, you may need more or less fabric. Here's how to calculate how much fabric you will need. You will need 2 measurements, the perimeter of the sink and the desired length of the sink skirt. To measure the perimeter of the sink, start at one side of your sink and measure all the way around the deepest point of your sink to the other side. Or you can measure the width and the 2 sides and add those numbers together. Multiply your sink measurement by 2.5 to 3 to get the total width of fabric required for the project. For example, my sink measurement was 60 inches, and 60 times 3 is 180 inches of fabric needed. This seems like a lot of fabric, but this includes hems, seams, as well as the pinch pleats, which add up to a lot of fabric in the end. To measure your desired length, you are going to start at the floor and measure up to the point on the sink where you want the top of the sink skirt to hit. To this number, you will add 10 to 16 inches to account for hems on the top and the bottom of the sink skirt. On the high end of that range, you will be able to get a 4-inch double hem on the top and bottom of the sink skirt. For example, my desired length is 34 inches, and I added 12 inches to account for hems, so my total length of fabric required is 46 inches. Now here's how I got to that 4 yards of fabric. The fabric I purchased from Etsy is 58 inches wide, so I knew I would need about 3 full panels at 46 inches long to make up the total width and length that I needed for this project. So I simply multiplied 46 times 3, which is 138 inches, and then I divided that by 36 inches, which is equal to a yard, and I got 3.8 yards. And because you have to purchase by the yard, I rounded up to 4 yards. Okay, so all those numbers probably seem confusing, so make sure you go back and double check all of your measurements before you get started. Once you have your fabric, I recommend giving it a wash and a good iron. This will just ensure that all of your measurements and cuts are even as we go along. Your fabric will come in one long length, and so now we need to cut these down into the lengths of panels required for the sink skirt. So for me, I need to cut these into 3 46-inch lengths. Because this is a lot of fabric, I found it easier to fold the fabric lengthwise in half and then measure and make my cuts from there. To do this, you will fold the fabric pattern facing in. Make sure all of the edges are carefully aligned. Next, using your tape measure, measure your total length. For me, that would be 46 inches, and make a mark with a fabric pencil. Continue to do this across the width of your fabric. And at the end, you will use a straight edge or a ruler to connect all those dots, making your cut line. Carefully cut your fabric, and then you will continue this process until you have all the panels you need for the sink skirt. Next, you are going to connect all these panels together. We will need to connect these side by side to make the total width required for the sink skirt. Starting with 2 panels, stack them on top of each other, pattern side facing, and also make sure the pattern is running in the same direction. Because I was working with so much fabric, I did end up rolling it up. This makes it a little bit more manageable for sewing and pinning the seam. On one side, pin the fabric together lengthwise. Sew these together with a 1/2 inch to 1 inch seam. Repeat the process with the next panel and continue until you have all of your panels connected side by side. Now we are going to create our hems. We are going to start by hemming the left and right sides. Those are the shortest ends of this whole long piece of fabric. To do this, we will create a 1/2 inch double hem. To create a double hem, you will fold the fabric 1/2 inch up, press with the iron, and then fold another 1/2 inch and press again. Pin this in place as you go, and then you will sew it together. Do this with both the left and right side. Now that we have the left and right sides hemmed, we are going to do our top hem. To make the top hem, you will make another double hem, except this time we will make it a little deeper to account for the pleat tape. The deeper hem is to provide extra strength for the pleat tape and also make sure that we don't have it showing through the front of the fabric. Now, a double fold is usually the same amount folded up. So for example, if you did a 4-inch fold, you would fold it 4 inches and then another 4 inches. I skimped a little bit on this so that I could allow for a little extra fabric. So I folded down 1/2 inch and then I folded down 4 inches for my top hem. You want to press with the iron as you go, pin it in place. And if you do this skimping like I did, you want to make sure that your seam goes across the 1/2 inch fold at the bottom. So at the top, I folded down 1/2 inch and then I folded down 4 inches from there. I pressed everything and then pinned right on that 1/2 inch fold. And then I made sure to also sew on that 1/2 inch fold so everything was sewed down properly. In this next step, we are going to add the pleat tape to this top hem. Next, measure and cut the pleat tape to the total width of your fabric and center it on that top hem, not too close to the top because you don't want it to show once we make those pencil pleats. Pin it in place, and then you want to follow the little stitch guides on the top and bottom of the pleat tape to make your stitches. One note to remember, don't sew up the sides of the pleat tape because we will use those in a later step. Finally, we are going to hem the bottom of the sink skirt. As with the other hems, we are going to create a double hem. The size of the bottom hem will be whatever is required to reach that desired length that you measured at the beginning of the video. For example, I ended up with a 1-inch double hem. I once again measured my desired length from the top of the sink skirt to the bottom and made a little mark with a fabric pencil. And then I did that in multiple places, connected the dots, and then folded my fabric up from there. Now we get to do the fun part and actually create the pleats. Gently pull the strings and push the fabric along the strings toward the center of the sink skirt. I found it easier to work from both sides because there is a lot of fabric. Continue to do this until you reach the pleat size that you want and also the original perimeter sink measurement. Tie the strings with a slip knot, coil it up neatly, and tuck it into the side of the pleat tape. Next, we are going to add our Velcro to the sink skirt so we can attach this to our pedestal sink. I use the soft side of the Velcro on the sink skirt and the tough side on the sink, just in case I need to wash it. I didn't want that tough side collecting a lot of lint and hair in my washing machine. Something I discovered because I decided to do really tight pinch pleats on my sink skirt, it actually got quite heavy because it is 100% linen. So I found that I actually needed a little bit of super glue between the pleat tape and the Velcro in order to make it stay on the sink. The final step is hanging your beautiful sink skirt on your pedestal sink and enjoying the beauty that it brings to your cottage bathroom. Making this custom bathroom sink skirt is probably my favorite sewing project to date. Let me know in the comments what you think of this project and if you tried it for your own home. I would love to know. Also, if you're new here, please subscribe. I would really appreciate it. Thank you for joining me today. I'll see you next time.